Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats and silence all electronic devices as the ceremony will begin momentarily. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's ceremony where the men and women of the United States Transportation Command will pay special tribute to Colonel Shawn Thompson on the occasion of his retirement from active duty after 26 years of dedicated service to this country. I am Master Sergeant Tanasia Taylor, and I will be your narrator. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is Commander 18th Air Force Major General Corey Martin. At this time, we would like to take a moment to recognize the family and all distinguished guests in attendance with us today. Please hold your applause until all guests are introduced. Please welcome Colonel Thompson's wife, Jessica, their children, Alexander, Peter, Katerina, Gregory, Isabella, Philip, Gabriella, Monica, Nicholas, Angela, and Patrick. Colonel Thompson's mother-in-law, Sharon Weems, and his father and mother-in-law, Joseph and Nancy Conti. We would also like to take this moment to recognize the rest of his extended family here with us today. We would also like to welcome all general officers, flag officers, senior executive service personnel, directors, deputy directors, senior enlisted leaders, co-workers, family, and friends joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of ruffles and flourishes and the singing of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare of us bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Ms. Hahn, for that beautiful rendition of the national anthem. Father Jim Dieters, may you please come forward to provide the invocation.
Before I start my prayer, I just want to say what an honor it is to do this for you, Colonel Simpson, and the blessing of your family and our parish here at St. Clair. And it's not it's a privilege for our pastor to bring together the military and parish life as well, how much the military blesses our parishes and vice versa. So it's an honor to acknowledge that today. So let us bow our heads in prayer. Loving God, we praise and thank you for all the ways you show your love for us. You are the source of all we have and all that we are. And today our hearts are overflowing with gratitude for the opportunities we have to serve you. We thank you in a special way today for the gifts you have bestowed upon your servant, Shawn Timpson, for his many years of faithful service. We praise you, God, for the way you have used Colonel Timpson as your instrument of service leadership in our United States military, and the many people in our country and world who have benefited from his service. We turn to you, God, and ask for your protection and guidance to all of our military women and men who are serving our country for the cause of freedom. May your loving hand hold each of them in your providential care, as we also entrust their families to you and ask you to give them hope and comfort. Gracious God, we especially ask your blessing upon Shawn and Jessica and the rest of his family for the love and sacrifices they have made in his support. May you continue to shower the whole Timpson family with an abundance of your grace. And may we all come to realize that our life belongs to you, and help us remain thankful for each day of life and every blessing that you bestow upon us. We make our prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father Peters. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Major General Martin, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out for a chance to celebrate the retirement of Shawn Timpson. 26 years. It is fitting to set aside some time and really celebrate what went into that time, both him and for the family. I will say, just personally, really honored to get a chance to be here. Even though I just met Shawn in this last assignment about 3 years ago, the amount of consequential things that he did for the directorate that I was leading at the time has left me really indebted to him for the work that he did. And if you think of some of the biggest news items that the military has been part of the last 3 years, Shawn has had a hand in a lot of that. And some of it, going back to some of the things that happened during COVID, where the only vaccines in places, which was the military needs, and the sustainment division was orchestrating that all the way up to today. We see a continuation of some of the support that the United States and other allies are giving to Ukraine or supporting them. He was there at the ground floor of that, starting that sustainment piece. I take nothing away from the will and fighting prowess of Ukraine, and clearly that support became critical to them to remain in the fight. And then in between was this historic evacuation of Americans and Afghans and other nationals out of Afghanistan. And although that wasn't right in his wheelhouse, it was a pretty frantic 3 weeks where leaders mattered. And Shawn was our interlocutor with the Pentagon during that time, maybe at 2 a.m. calls with the Pentagon to continue to make sure things were on track. So I really have to be indebted and happy with things to it is great to see so much family at the event. Certainly Jessica, Timpson children, Sharon, thank you for being here. Joseph and Nancy, and then Colette, and then Renee, I haven't met yet. Renee, sister-in-law. And I was told recently, I think we have Las Vegas, Virginia, and Florida online with some of Shawn's family. So I appreciate folks that were able to join virtually as well. So what I understand though with the family, Shawn said that some have never seen a military ceremony. So this side of the room, probably very familiar with some of the military proceedings. So I want to inject a little bit of military realism to this. We're going to do a roll call. You've seen it on movies. It's really when it's really important, an important mission, you got to make sure it's there. Maybe more important, if you're not there, you run through a roll call. And I wouldn't doubt if maybe Jessica and Shawn do this on a basis. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that I was unable to remember 11 Timpson children. It is purely just to demonstrate some military. So, roll call, say your name, just respond if you're here, say anything you want. Alexander. Here. Peter. Here. All right. Serena. Here. Gregory. Here. Isabella. Philip. Here. Gabriella. Yeah. Veronica. Yeah. Nicholas?
Yeah.
Angela?
Yeah.
Patrick?
Yeah.
All right, we are all present and accounted for. So we can proceed, and then as I've acknowledged this side of the room, a lot of familiar faces from the time of Transcom. Thank you for coming out and joining this. So as I said, this side of the room probably has seen retirement centers. What you're going to see here today is a pretty standard, typical retirement ceremony. So while it's a typical retirement ceremony, I'd say we're retiring kind of an atypical career of a service member. A lot of times it's really two. If you're wearing a uniform, there's two kind of major tracks: enlisted track, officer track. Shawn did a look. Come in, you usually have one specialty, maybe two specialties you get trained on in your time in the military. Shawn officially has three, but I think you can make the argument he's at about 4 or 5 different jobs. Very broad in his time. And despite living overseas, many different assignments, over a third of his time is right here in Illinois. And he's decided to make this. But it didn't start there. It started in the shadow of the Orange Bowl in Miami. It's the Orange Bowl because of the other commonality that we have. There's not a lot of Miami Dolphin fans running around there. I'm a lifelong Miami Dolphin fan. He gets the credit of actually growing up in Miami and being a true fan. But grew up in Florida with roots, but not necessarily a lot of military roots. Yet, one of the things he wanted to do as a child was to fly. Whether that was going to be flying an airplane or flying a spaceship, he didn't know. He just wanted to be maybe a pilot or an astronaut. Growing up at the time. And Sharon, I'll tell you, one of the things he talked about is just what he saw mom with his hard work and wanted to follow that. And I know in the 80s already, as a young teenager, he had his own business. Running his own business and was showing that initiative. But then at that point, I kind of took a different path than the family had. First generation to go to college. And he went to the University of Florida, even though my understanding is the family was more of fans of the U at the time, but he went to Florida. If there was any second guessing that at the time, I'm guessing there's not anymore. That is where he met Jessica, and they married that first year of school. And I guess probably figured out maybe school was going to have to take a back seat for a second, get a job, and that is how the Air Force got a chance to have Shawn Timson. So he joined the Air Force, and he really started that broad career at that point. He was in Germany, painting the missiles and bombs that were needed on the aircraft and flying out Germany. He was post-Soviet Union, where he was really making sure that the resurgent Russia was not going to be factored. He was out there ensuring that was the case. Made a really initially strong impression on leadership, and they decided that he probably would make a very good officer. And so he actually now, with the Air Force paying for it, had a chance to go back to school, back in Florida, South Florida this time, to finish up school and came out commissioned as an officer. And what he did first was defend the country many feet under the ground in Montana, sitting with our nuclear arsenal, making sure that at a moment's notice on what would be our worst day if we had to use it, that we were ready to use that weapon. But I think in reality, was using it every day. In fact, if he was there and competent crews like him, made any adversary think that they didn't really want to do anything with the United States. And that is we talk a lot in the military, and that's a no-fail mission, that's a no-fail mission. With nuclear weapons, you get really close to no-fail. And so the level of testing that they do is pretty exquisite. And even with that community that does that, he was kind of legendary on his streak of the time that he had a perfect test for what's like two good things. He was exceptional at that, and then saw an opportunity to maybe fulfill that dream he had when he was growing up and to go fly. And so he was sent to pilot training and assigned a KC-135 aircraft. So this is now kind of in the 2000s, mid to late 2000s. And if you were flying almost any aircraft at the time, as we have other services in the room, if you were really in any capacity in the military, you were probably in Afghanistan and Iraq. Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraq and Freedom. Shawn found himself there, flying quite a bit. Several air medals were displayed on his uniform coat from that time, still an enemy that was trying to reach out and touch him. He remembers seeing the hot pieces of lead that were coming up into the air. We call it anti-aircraft artillery to avoid that, telling others how they could avoid it, the threats that were in the air at the time. Both flying the PC-135 and later the C-5, our largest aircraft that we have in the Air Force. And doing exceptional at that to the point where the Air Force decided they wanted him to be in a very formal leadership position called squadron command. And he deployed. He was in Afghanistan for that as well, and on the ground. And one of our earliest important bases called Kandahar Air Base. And now that those hot pieces of lead that were earlier flying up in the sky were now coming down as people were trying to take out the runway in order to limit the amount of aircraft that we could fly. Because just as a side, just kind of on the importance of what he was doing both on the ground, but when he was in the air flying PC-135 is an air refueling aircraft. It has a tremendous amount of fuel in the airplane, and it can pass in the air. Another aircraft comes up and touches it, and it can transfer that fuel and let a smaller plane stay in the air a much longer period of time. And there were, throughout the years, almost daily occurrences where soldiers, sailors, marines, and airmen on the ground needed air support to help them in their battles with the Taliban in Afghanistan in particular. And those aircraft were always like 2-3 minutes away because a little higher up is Shawn Thompson flying his aircraft around by and not like an hour. So he did that in the air, and then when he was on the ground as the commander, running the airfield in charge of making sure the airfield stayed effective. He and his team, the running team, has really kept even bad advantage run rates in these. And so through that whole period, made a name for himself to the point where general officers really started looking to have him work for them. And so he took that experience and really applied it to a lot of problem sets, some of which I just talked about. They were really consequential issues that he helped solve. So it was quite an extensive career and quite an impressive career, and I think other things along the way, involved with even some of the presidential support in a couple of unique ways. One, I think was President Obama went to Mandela's funeral. You were running things out of a small island off of Africa to make that happen, and then in his office job, had a hand in the next presidential airplane. So the next Air Force One that will be out in a few years. That's sort of Trump's so mainly for the family that hasn't necessarily known some of the things that have happened in all the news that Shawn made. A very impressive career, and that alone would be, it was talking about things. But I do that, then I look at the first two rows, and I think, my goodness, all of that year-long deployments, 6-month deployments, the time gone. Jessica, amazing. I mean, it is. I think one that to be a mother of 11 would be impressive, and all 11 homeschooled children, and highly successful. If I understand it right, we already have a teacher, nurse, soon to be dentist. I think it's one soon to be dentist, and maybe potentially 4 other dentists down the line, or they might go. I think there are 3 languages spoken in the family other than English. I think the amount of gratitude owed to you is you can't say anymore. I can't say anymore. So I just want to make sure that we take a ceremony like this to honor you for what you did, especially in those times that Shawn was pulled away for duty. And so that's good. Yeah. Thank you. And for the kids as well. One is just the fact of how you've excelled, but I lived a couple houses away from them, and at times may have felt in our house, and they over double that. That is meaningful as children. The level of cooperation and patience that you guys have as a family. And I know you're going to get recognized later in the ceremony, but I want to let you know from a father of 3, very impressed with that. So So I think as I wrap up, there's a medal we're going to read here in a moment. There's several recognitions that he's received. There'll be gifts around the retirement time frame. I think probably though one of the most impressive things is just as he started his Air Force journey with his family intact, just the two of them. He's more importantly doing for 26 years in uniform, 29 years total time with the USF going in there. And here he is with family back. I think that makes me just happy to be part of the ceremony. So, Shawn, Jessica, family, you're more than worthy of feeling some pride as we read the retirement order for Shawn, which we'll do in a minute. But first, if you join me, Shawn, we'll present you with the Defense Superior Service Medal.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as General Martin presents the Defense Superior Service Medal to Colonel Shawn Simpson and remain standing for the publishing of the retirement order. Publish the order. Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of the Defense Superior Service Medal to Colonel Shawn R. Simpson. Colonel Shawn R. Simpson, United States Air Force, distinguished himself by exceptionally superior service as Deputy Chief, Global Operations Center and Chief, Global Sustainment Division, Operations Directorate, United States Transportation Command, Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, from May 2020 to March 2023. During this period, Colonel Simpson's strategic vision was instrumental to the success of the command's global operations and strengthened the nation's ability to deploy and sustain the Joint Force. Under his guidance, the Operations Center responded to multiple global events, to include critical Joint Force deployments to support the Afghanistan non-combatant evacuation operations, moving more than 124,000 passengers in 17 days, the largest evacuation in United States history. Additionally, supporting the United States European Command, he oversaw 30 presidential drawdown authorities, which directed the transfer of Department of Defense equipment valued at over $12 billion to Ukraine. His leadership was vital to the movement of 947 military and commercial airlift missions and 57 seafaring vessels, which delivered an unprecedented amount of security assistance material that included over 111,000 anti-tank systems, 1,400 air defense systems with 2,391 anti-aircraft munitions, 246 artillery systems with 1.2 million artillery rounds, 14,000 small arms weapons with 202 million rounds of ammunition, and 7,224 trucks, vehicles, and trailers. Lastly, his leadership was instrumental in the command's participation in the Chairman's Dynamic Force Employment Initiative to ensure the Department of Defense effectively incorporated the enterprise's posture, capacity, command, control, integration, and prioritization. The distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Simpson culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Air Force, the United States Transportation Command, and the Department of Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the publishing of the retirement order.
Publish your order.
Attention to orders. In accordance with Special Order Number AC 295-1301, Colonel Shawn Simpson, effective 31 August 2023, you are relieved from active duty, U.S. Transcom, Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, retired effective 1 September 2023, per Air Force Instruction 36-2203, in the grade of Colonel, by the order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, Major General Martin will present Colonel Simpson with a certificate of retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. It reads, "To all who see this, present a greeting. This is to certify that Colonel Shawn R. Simpson, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the Air Force on the first day of September 2023. Signed, Charles Q. Brown, General, United States Air Force Chief of Staff. Along with that certificate, is Colonel Timpson is also presented with a certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States, which reads, Colonel Shawn R. Timpson, I extend my personal gratitude and sincere appreciation of a grateful nation to you for your patriotic service to our country. Your bravery and dedication in our armed forces help protect your fellow Americans during a critical moment in our history and contributed to a work of greater security and growing prosperity. Your devotion to duty, honor, and country, in keeping with the long traditions of the future military in the world, embodied the American idea of selfless service. Our nation owes you an incredible debt. Your commitment and the example you will set inspire future generations to serve with pride and keep our country secure. You represent the best of our nation, and I join our fellow Americans in saluting your honorable service. I wish you happiness and success in your next chapter. Signed, Joe R. Biden, Commander in Chief. Colonel Timpson will now be presented with a congratulatory letter from the U.S. Transcom Commander. It reads, Dear Colonel Timpson, on the occasion of your retirement, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for an impressive career, culminating over 26 years of outstanding service to our Air Force and our nation. Although we will miss seeing you in duty uniform, we take great pride in knowing that your legacy will continue to shape our Air Force for many generations to come, and the many airmen and civilians you have positively impacted throughout your career. For that, we remain eternally grateful. Again, congratulations on your retirement, and thanks for an impressive career of Air Force service. We wish you all the best in health and happiness as you begin your next chapter. Sincerely, Jacqueline B. Vanovos, General, United States Air Force, Commander, United States Transportation Command.
Another piece kind of military tradition is the commanders often have a coin that they present for outstanding performance. And so General Vanovos with the 4 stars is also probably coin.
To accompany the retirement certificate is a time-honored tradition of placing the retirement pin on the member's lapel. Will Colonel Timpson's wife Jessica please come forward? Every retiree receives a special retirement pin as a memento of his or her active duty service. At this time, we like to ask Jessica to place this pin on Colonel Timpson's lapel to symbolize his transition from active duty to retired status. This pin stands as a testament of his service to our great nation. To all who see it, know that Colonel Shawn R. Timpson has met all challenges set before him and has served our country with pride, honor, and dignity. As we acknowledge Colonel Timpson's leadership and dedication, we must also recognize and understand the value and contributions of his family, especially the efforts of his spouse. Major General Martin will now present Jessica with a spouse certificate of appreciation from the United States Air Force, which reads, In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Jessica M. Timpson for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for your support, which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Given the first day of September 2023, signed Charles Q. Brown, General, United States Air Force, Chief of Staff. Additionally, General Martin will also present Jessica with a letter from the Commander, United States Transportation Command. The letter reads, Dear Ms. Timpson, Alan and I wanted to share our personal thanks for your dedicated support as a military spouse during Shawn's 26 years of service to the United States Air Force. Your untiring commitment to supporting Shawn's service allowed him to protect our great nation. We know that this did not come without sacrifices, so we are especially grateful for your contributions. Best wishes to you and Shawn for health and happiness in the coming years. Sincerely, Jacqueline D. Vanovos, General, United States Air Force Commander, United States Transportation Command. Alexander, Peter, Katerina, Gregory, Isabella, Philip, Gabriella, Veronica, Nicholas, Angela, and Patrick, please join your parents on stage. General Martin will present each of the children with letters of appreciation from the Commander, United States Transportation Command. Each letter reads, "Please accept my sincere appreciation for supporting your father throughout his United States Air Force career. We are grateful for Colonel Timpson's dedicated service to our nation. The strength of our nation is our armed forces, and the strength of our armed forces is our service members, and the strength of our service members is our military families. I recognize that being the child of a military parent puts added responsibility on the young person. Thank you for rising to the challenge and supporting our nation's security. My sincerest congratulations, and I wish you all the best for the future. Sincerely, Jacqueline D. Villalobos, General, United States Air Force, Commander, United States Transportation Command." Thank you, Colonel Timpson's family. At this time, we would like to take a few moments to allow presentations for Colonel Timpson.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Colonel Gallagher. Before I do the presentation here, I just want to share a quick, a short story about how Shawn and I met. We were div chiefs together, but it's my career in the Air Force has moved around. Maybe not quite as much Shawn's, but has moved around. Every time I show up at a base, I start talking to people. You know, and I come from a very large family as well with 6 kids, not even close to 11. But as we start talking, you know, when I arrive places, I'm always the biggest family. So I get here. Me and Shawn are working late nights and running on Afghanistan, the project General Martin mentioned, and we're, you know, in between those little breaks where we had to discuss and talk a little bit. I discovered he has 11 kids, and that I think bonded us for the rest of our time. And I have respect to you for that, and Jessica, a big props to you for succeeding in that as well. But this presentation is on behalf of General Linderman, who wishes to be here with us today. But on behalf of her and the JP at large, and it talks a little bit about those two instances that probably were your biggest accomplishments while at Transcom, but what I would argue is they're probably Transcom's biggest accomplishments during your time there as well. And that's the Afghanistan NEO here. This is a picture of 600 plus airmen or refugees who are getting on the C-17 to head back home. And this is a picture of some of the lethal aid that we've provided to Ukraine, of which Shawn had. It would not have been nearly such success it was without your leadership of your division as you guys worked and accomplished these two big projects, in addition to all the other stuff that goes on in Transcom. But I just thought this is a great plaque. It reads, "Thank you for your dedication and leadership and selfless commitment to America's airmen and the Joint Force. You will greatly be missed." And so, on behalf of the Operations Directorate, congratulations to you, your family, on your retirement, and from me personally, on my behalf, the friendship that we've had, I really appreciate, and my respect for you as an officer and a leader is the utmost. And I wish you the best of luck in the next stage of your life. So, yeah. So we got that. So I'll put this back here, and then also. Oh, sorry. There's a card that goes with that as well. on behalf of General Lerman, there's J3 coin as well.
Thank you.
So appreciate it, and best of luck to you.
Awesome. See you around.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. So on behalf of the board of the Blue Chiefs, here's your shadow box. It has your ICBM photo, your fixing 135, and then all the presentation that you put in every time you put you have it in the top floor. My Blue Chiefs, you guys in Germany, the countries up there, been done. Wish you and appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce for the very first time Colonel Shawn R. Timpson, United States Air Force, retired.
Can't wait, I was gonna memorize this. Alright. So to everyone in attendance here today, I'm so honored that you have taken the time to celebrate this special event with me and my family. This entire process is truly a surreal experience. I'm glad to be able to share it with you. I'm a cry. Just wasn't expecting it this way. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to acknowledge that I am not a master orator, but my hope is each person here in the room feels a sense of my gratitude, maybe takes home a chuckle or two. That being said, I'm going to begin with the obligatory thank you session. So in all seriousness, I need to absolutely thank God for all the blessings that He's bestowed upon me and my family. I can't imagine reaching this place in my career and having right from heaven without His assistance. I think fellow gentlemen's advice is always saying, you can look at your family and talk, but you can't do both and not cry. So I'm just down. So I'm going to try to not look at them as much as that sounds. Countless times obstacles have been popped up where I felt I was going in the wrong direction or off the plan. But no matter what occurred, my trust and my faith kept me continuing on, and things always seemed to work out for the better. Father Jim, thank you for your beautiful vacation. I feel so fortunate to have my parish priest bless this fine ceremony. I think I speak for everyone in my family when I say that we feel so lucky that we've found you safe on 7th. Father Jim's bestowed numerous first sacraments to my children. I think 5 first communions. He's provided a listening ear, some sage advice, and he's an absolute wonderful person. He's an inspiration. I wish more people would hear God's word through him. General Martin, thank you for presiding over my retirement ceremony today. The last time my family saw an official military event for me, the 18th Air Force Commander presided over that promotion ceremony. Therefore, it's only fitting that the 18th Air Force Commander lays the capstone on my career. And what makes it even more special is that it comes from individual I respect, I admire, and genuinely enjoy working. So, Major Gross, I know Ms. Hahn is in here, Sergeant Taylor, Sergeant First Class Santana, and any others who helped set up the ceremony and put this together today. I sincerely appreciate you volunteering and making this a wonderful event. And then for the DBs, my colleagues, Steve, Derek, Nick, I guess there's no other DBs here today, that's right. My family, to my family, friends, colleagues, co-workers, thank you for honoring me with your attendance. Never would I have imagined how fast this 26 and a half years have gone. I distinctly remember being a 19-year-old new Air Force enlistee, and here I am now, and retired. No offense intended to anyone in the audience who is either older than me or retired. Throughout my career, I have seen and done many cool things, met wonderful people, and have had amazing assignments. One of my first, most unique, temporary duty assignments for my family. TUI was bringing German Tornado fighter aircraft down from Cologne, Germany, down the coast of Africa to Overberg, South Africa. Of course, when we arrived, KC-135 aircraft ended up breaking for 2 weeks, and my crew and I got to enjoy the sights around Cape Town, South Africa, to include local markets, diamond cutting factory, and shark cage diving in the ocean with great white sharks. It's pretty awesome. However, looking back on my career, I can clearly see how the Air Force and the people in it helped shape me into the person that I am today. So one of my first and distinct memories was as a young airman in basic training. I was in the 5th week of the 6-week-long course, and I had to run in with my flight leadership, and ultimately got in trouble with my military training instructor at the MTI. So think kind of full metal jacket type guy. A day later, I had a meeting with the flight commander and major who ended up recycling me, which was sending me back in training by 2 weeks. Furthermore, I remember the Air Force major looking me in the eye and telling me that I'd likely never amount to anything in the Air Force. That stung. And I can honestly say I used those words as motivation at different points in my career. But that's not the point of the story. The real impact came when I had to join my new, formerly junior, basic training flight. Everyone there was keenly aware of my failure. And there's no running from it. So for me, this was my first lesson. Definitely not my last, but in humility, publicly owning up to my big mistake and then pushing forward to make the best of the situation. One of my next memorable moments occurred in the spring of 1999. So I'm going to go to. I just completed undergraduate basic space and nuclear operations course at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. And our entire class got along well. We were fairly close. And as neighbors, those of us in the same neighborhood tended to hang out together after work. So back then, the class rankings determined which order you got your assignment. Probably like it ended up being in pilot training. And honestly, I didn't do bad in the class. So I don't want anybody to think I was like last in the class. But I didn't do bad class ranking wise, but the top spot went to a former navigator friend, Captain Jay Folks, also a future Air Force colonel. So Jay and I were friends, but I remember later that afternoon or evening, he pulled me aside. And Jay basically told me that he was disappointed in me, that I had all the natural abilities that I should have been everyone. And that I took the easy way out. And that he, a good old boy from Georgia, put in the effort and outworked. And Jay wasn't wrong. So, as my mother would frustratingly agree, I used to only put in the exact amount of effort required to get the job done and not get in trouble. And Jay's words and his results stuck with me and taught me about not squandering the gifts I was given and about using it for the best of my. Finally, I remember becoming a staff officer for the first time. A major here at Scott Air Force Base, initially at the 680 Air Operations Center, and then shortly afterwards at 18th Air Force. Before that point, I think like most officers, I spent all my time in individual squadrons, rarely even interacting with lieutenant colonels. Luckily for me, I had an exceptional civil servant taking under his wing, Chris Rosenthal, also known as Rosie. As a new staff officer, I admittedly had tons to learn. So, joint up planning process, mission analysis, how to create and present briefings to general officers. And I think my former bosses, General McDew, General Everhart, and General Martin would agree. I think Rosie did a really good job. So for that, I thank him. Obviously, I've learned many other lessons over my years through the career, such as friendship, compassion, humbleness, sacrifice. And I acknowledge I sound like a My Little Pony episode there. But I've often learned these lessons from the people that surround me. So obviously, thank you to everyone in this room who impacted me in some way or some form. As I conclude today's event, I want to give a special acknowledgement to the most important people in my life. My family. It doesn't get on. To my in-laws, in hindsight, I have to imagine you must have been very terrified of Jessica and I. First got here. We were young, maybe a bit naive. But in the end, I think things started out just the way they're supposed to. So thank you again for your blessings. And Mary and Jessica, I hope you provided over the years
And so I have a gift for both of you. But Joe, you'll probably think it's more for Nancy. That's okay too. So Mom, you and Dad did a fantastic job raising me. For the audience's edification, I was not a bad kid or anything. But like most children, I did not realize all the sacrifices that a parent makes for their child. While I did not appreciate it at the time, I also realized I learned the value of hard work, doing things right, or doing them over again until they're right. My kids got now from me, and to never give up. So thank you for taking care of me, raising me, and the help you provided Jessica and I over the years as well. So I love you. Just a small token for you. So to my children, your mother has given me 11 of the best gifts in the last one. Although I have occasionally asked what the return policy is. But seriously, you all are the reason I do what I do, and I provide me so much joy and happiness. Throughout my career, you've experienced 19 different assignments, 30 different mailing addresses, and yet you prospered through it all. Moving companies could take lessons from you, and in fact, some have actually paid you for the work you've done. I love the way you help each other out and the close bonds you have all formed, and I think that's every parent's dream come true. My hope is now to be able to spend more time with you, whether you want me to or not. And I'm not pulling out 11 gifts for that, no. All right. My amazing wife, I've over 28 years of Jessica. 28 years, holy cow. Now, Jessica is not the type of spouse that wants to or takes credit for what occurred during her husband's career. However, she has always had faith in me and my abilities and has motivated me. In my early Monsieur days, she once told me in front of her neighbors that I would definitely make the rank of colonel if I wanted to. Our neighbor, a major select at the time, was surprised when he heard that, and he went home to see what his wife would say, or his wife thought about his chances of making the next rank. Needless to say, she was not the motivator for him that Jessica was for me. She puts up with my crap, she smooths out my imperfections, she's here to me my utmost highs and my lowest lows. And through it all, she has loved me for my unwavering support. Sometimes that support's whoa, 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 to calm me down. Sometimes it's words of wisdom, maybe a hug or a back rub, or even a swift kick in the butt when it's needed. When we married all those years ago, I do not think either of us would have predicted this breathtaking adventure of military life. Traveling around the world, unique vacations, developing a love for history, nor having to expend extended time apart. While our military ventures come to an end, I cannot wait to see what the next 50 years has in store for us. I know I'm not a poet, but I cannot wait to see what the next 50 years may breathe through my ears. But I love you more than words can ever describe, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for choosing me all these years ago. So here's a small token of my affection. Against General Martin, for all those interested, we're going to be staying in the local area following retirement. I have an open door policy at my house. So feel free to visit, come say hi, and please don't complain if you catch me standing in the middle of the commissary. And to everyone here, remember, be humble. Whatever you do, take on to the best of your ability and take care of one another. And finally, I know it's going to be hard for some of you. Keep in mind it's Friday afternoon. Don't go back to work and have a happy Sunday night.
Are we marching off?
Thank you and congratulations, Colonel Simpson. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Air Force song and remain standing for the departure of the official party.
We go a cappella.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please join Colonel Simpson's family in the receiving line. Everyone is invited to stay for cake and refreshments. Thank you for attending and have a wonderful day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like it.
I want to end it and it doesn't stay.
Nice job.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know.
Well done. Maria?
You met Bridget?
No.
Yeah, Maria. She's your cookie lover.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I gotta send some more in.
Please. He said he would bring the recipe and he never did.
Oh, I did see that.
He did. He lied to his soldiers.
Already.
Yeah. I came up to him and I was like, sir,